On today's trade deadline special,
we debate the winners and losers from a busy day of wheelin' and dealin'.
Paul George, Rose, Butler. We discuss the most surprising players who didn't get moved.
And Paul Pierce got 2 phones, one for the dunk, one for the drone, in a brand new edition of the Meme Team.
It's Thursday, February 23rd. The starter starts now.
Good evening, sweet world, and welcome to the Starters NBA Trade Deadline Special. Whether you're listening to the podcast, joining us live on NBA TV, or a little bit later on YouTube, we're very, very happy to have you. I'm J.E. Skeets, and alongside me, as always, that's Taz Mellis.
Wheeling and dealing, what a wonderful feeling. That's for you, Clyde.
To his right, the international man mystery, taking it to the max, Lee Ellis.
Friends.
And last, certainly not least, over there, it is the bearded one. It's Trey Kirby.
Hey-o!
Hey-o! TK, what do you got for us?
Well, I'm here at the internet looking for your best tweets at #TheStarters. And guys, it's trade deadline day, and while there were no huge names moved today, all the chatter does make you want to make some deals. Which brings us to today's question. What's something you'd like to trade? And if you've been listening to our podcast, The Drop, the past couple of years, you know I've been trying to unload my stupid house in Lombard, Illinois. And at this point, I'm willing to trade it for just about anything, like a 1990 Chevy Beretta, my first car, maybe a bag of beans, or maybe even John Salmons, who always seemed to play at an all-star level whenever he would get traded at the deadline. But we want to hear from you, so let us know on Twitter what's something you'd like to trade. Send us your best tweets to #TheStarters. We'll hear from you later, and seriously, if you want to buy my house, let me know.
All right.
We'll kick our tenants out. Not a big deal.
Get those tweets in right now. Make your offers on Trey's house. All right. Hour-long special here for the starters tonight. We're going to try and take you through all of today's deals and over the last couple days, of course.
We can
as
do
well.
it. We can do it.
It wasn't the juiciest of trade
There was a
deadline
lot
days.
of noise and stuff.
A lot of noise, but a lot to break down
Yeah.
regardless. So TK, why don't you get over here, join us at the big desk. We got a whole lot of deals. Let's start with probably, I guess, the biggest deal from today. And that is the Mavericks getting Nerlens Noel in exchange for Andrew Bogut, Justin Anderson, and a 2017 first-round pick, which is top 18 protected. So if that does not convey this season, which it is very, very unlikely, it will be 2 second-round picks in 2017 and 18. Nerlens Noel going to the Mavs, the Sixers getting back those pieces. What did you guys think of this one? Again, sort of the biggest deal from the day, at least in terms of names.
Yeah, not the juiciest of trades, but a little watery. A very good player in Nerlens Noel. A guy who is the prototypical center in the NBA, right? Block shots, do it a lot, and then run the floor and get dunks. I mean, he's good at what he does when he plays, and he doesn't play a lot, so maybe the Dallas Mavericks got him for a little bit below market value because he only plays 19 minutes a game, so his numbers aren't that sexy. The Sixers are kind of in a have-to-trade scenario, so it's a great move for the Mavs.
I like the situation for Nerlens Noel, getting a fresh start, going to a team that wants him and is trying to win, because his career to this point, up until this season, hasn't been about that. When they start winning, he was off the bench coming behind Okafor and Joel Embiid, who had such a great season. So I think it's very, very important for Nerlens Noel to show the Mavericks what he can do. They're still in a playoff hunt. Whether or not they make it's going to be very tough, but it just gives him an opportunity to show what he can do. He is a young Tyson Chandler type guy who the Mavs had so much success with.
That's absolutely what they're hoping for, I would think.
And I think, I think it's worth the gamble of taking it on a young guy. He's obviously going to be a restricted free agent at the end of this season, which gives the Mavs the first right of refusal to sign him. I think it's a great opportunity for them to see what they get in him.
Yeah, there was 3 things they needed to get: youth, talent, and defense. And really, he takes care of all that. He's going to fit next to Dirk for however long Dirk sticks around. And like you said, they have matching rights now that he's going to be a restricted free agent. He's on the same timeline as Harrison Barnes. So whenever Dirk finally decides to retire, probably 15 years from now, they'll still have those young guys, right? It's kind of a little stealth rebuild. They're going to challenge for the playoffs this year, and then still hopefully be able to keep these young guys around as their next building pieces going forward.
For sure. Yeah. You said he's playing for a contract right now, so he's going to want to show what he can give to a team over these final 25, 30 games. He's probably going to command a decent paycheck.
Yeah, of course.
15 plus, maybe even
22 years old,
yeah.
When you have that sort of reputation and resume and arsenal, yeah, of course.
Were you guys surprised that in the end the Sixers end up trading Nerlens Noel and not Jahlil Okafor, who is staying put and could make for an awkward situation there when he comes back to the team?
Yeah, I know Jahlil Okafor was a guy in all the trade rumors, but it wasn't too long ago, Nerlens Noel was not happy with his minutes. He made it quite clear that he was not content. So he wasn't very happy. At 22 years of age,
Yeah.
You know he's not going to play a ton behind Joel Embiid. I know they didn't play a ton together, only 8 minutes combined. That being said, I don't think they were really going to work together. You said the Mavs made a gamble. I don't think it's much of a gamble at all. The guy is extremely solid. You give up Justin Anderson, and like we said, it's probably not going to be a first-round pick, and Andrew Bogut. The surprising part to me is Andrew Bogut gets dealt. A lot of teams want him. Now he's on the Sixers, likely to be bought out in some capacity, right?
Yeah, I think so.
They're not getting anything for him.
No.
No, but he seems like a perfect sort of buyout guy that some team is going to be interested in. The Cavs apparently are also interested in Andrew Bogut. He's a veteran center. He's played in the finals the past 2 years. He's going to be able to block shots. He moves the ball. He sets great screens.
Yeah.
He would be a great third center to come off the bench, really.
You only would look for him to play 15 or 20 minutes a night. He's got the playoff experience, as you mentioned, and he's hungry as well. He knows at this stage of his career, you only want to be on teams competing for championship. That's not happening in Philadelphia. So he's going to go wherever the team has space.
So why did the Sixers make this move then? They don't need more second-round picks. We can all agree with that. Is it just to take a flyer on Justin Anderson, or is it just to get rid of one of their centers? And they were trying for Okafor, and they couldn't get a deal they liked, so in the end, they just go with Noel. Has got to be what it is?
Yeah. They obviously
I don't like it.
I don't love it either. They didn't grab a package or see a package out there for Jahlil Okafor, or else they would have moved him as well. But yeah, this package is not that sexy. And again, not turning Andrew Bogut into anything. It sure seems like, unless something comes extremely late past the deadline, isn't all that great to me.
Yeah, but we know Joel Embiid is going to be the starting center for the Sixers. Like you guys said, Nerlens Noel is going to get paid in the offseason. That's a lot of money, maybe $20 million, 15 to 20 mil for a backup center is quite a bit. So if you can get something for him, Justin Anderson was a wing prospect we were kind of excited about a couple of years ago. Yeah. Taking a flyer on him is all right, rather than losing Nerlens Noel for nothing.
Yeah,
really.
it's funny. The Mavs are hoping Nerlens Noel turns into like a Tyson Chandler light, as we said, while the Sixers are probably hoping Justin Anderson turns into like a Jay Crowder light.
Yeah.
That, the Mavs made that move when they made the move for Rondo and they trade him to the Celtics, and he turns this unbelievable 3-and-D guy. They're hoping that Justin Anderson can add a three-point shot and become sort of that type of guy.
The only thing about that is he kind of got that opportunity in Dallas and wasn't able to make the most of it under Rick Carlisle in a team that needed young blood. So it's going to be a big challenge to see what Justin Anderson does turn out to be, because he's very athletic. We know he likes to shoot the three, but he hasn't really had the opportunity to show what he can do consistently.
He knocked it down in college.
Yeah.
He did. I know it's obviously a little different line. He knocked it down in college pretty consistently. Hasn't been able to do it in the pros. But, he's going to get a little bit of a chance there in Philly, so we'll see from there. All right, moving on. One of the other bigger deals from the day, the Bulls and the Thunder switching some guys around. The Thunder picking up Dougie McBuckets, Doug McDermott, Taj Gibson, and a 2018 second-round pick in exchange for Cameron Payne, Joffrey Laverne, and Anthony Morrow. Trey, you're the Bulls fan here on the starters. What did you think about this move? Not only what the Bulls were getting there and sort of campaign as the main piece, but giving up some of their forwards.
Well, it's just another page from the What Are the Bulls Doing file to me, really. They traded away two of their top 6 guys, which kind of screams, okay, we're going to throw away this season and start tanking and try to get better for next year. But they also didn't trade Jimmy Butler, which is the exact opposite of that. It seems like for the past 18 months, basically, there hasn't been much of a plan for the Bulls. They've just been trying to get into the playoffs and trying to get that money, I guess. But this really shines a light on the Doug McDermott trade, too, from a couple of years ago when he was drafted. They gave up 2 first-rounders and 3 second-rounders to get him. Now they're adding another second-rounder into this draft pick, losing the longest-tenured Bull, a really respected guy in Taj Gibson. I don't know. It's just a weird day for the Bulls because it seemed like Jimmy Butler was going to be gone for the whole day, and then it ended up just trading away 2 rotation guys when you're still trying to make the playoffs. It doesn't make a ton of sense, but I guess they got a point guard.
Bringing in Payne, basically, you're saying Rondo and Michael Carter-Williams are gone in some capacity because Fred Hoiberg hasn't liked playing those guys at all this season. So Payne has some prospects there for sure.
He's going to get a chance.
And now that he's going to get some good minutes, we might see what he's like. But Taj Gibson, that's a big surprise for me because, as you mentioned, great locker room guy, long tenured vet, and Wade and Jimmy Butler love playing with him. So now they lose one of their guys. It's like, what are they doing, Chicago?
Well, he's going to be a free agent coming into this year.
Right.
So at least they got a guy in campaign who will probably stick around and play point guard for him, which is something the Bulls have needed the past couple of seasons. So I can see it from that sort of standpoint when you see the way that the Rockets got Ryan Anderson and Eric Gordon last year for nothing. The Pelicans got nothing in return for them. At least they're able to get something back, but just giving away 2 of your top 6 guys for a future point guard, I don't know.
Well, at least they're getting younger somewhat, right? I mean, Taj Gibson is 31 years of age. It's not a full rebuild, but it's a little bit of a retool. And Could Cameron Payne be the best prospect in this deal? Sure. I think he definitely
But we
could
just
be.
don't know if the Bulls are rebuilding or they're trying to win now. That's the question.
Yeah, they're
isn't it?
trying to split the difference
Yeah.
in every single move they make. You just got to choose
Yeah,
one path or
yeah.
the other, really.
As for the Thunder, I wouldn't want to take on Taj Gibson and Steven Adams.
Yeah.
So, I mean, that will be a pesky front line. I mean,
Yeah.
obviously a lot of heart and soul in those two guys, so that'll be a tough matchup for anyone. All right, another trade today. The Raptors making another little move. Picked up PJ Tucker from the Suns for Jared Sullinger and 2 future second-round picks. We had been hearing rumors about PJ Tucker making his way to the Raptors for feels like a week at least now.
A year.
Yeah, and in the end, it didn't cost Masai Ujiri a first-round pick. It was these 2 future seconds. What do you think of this, especially looking at it from the Raptors' point of view?
Yeah, let's look at it from the Raptors' point of view. We sat here. I looked at my notes from last year at the NBA trade deadline. They wanted PJ Tucker
Right.
back then, and he was talked about back then. He's tough. He's a defensive, tough guy. And he allows the rest of the lineup to do what they're supposed to do, and Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan to just score. And then you throw in PJ Tucker, DeMar Carroll, and Serge Ibaka to play on the defensive end. It's a nice little balance. They have a lot of versatility now. You can throw DeMar at the 4, you can put PJ Tucker at the 3, and I wonder how much faith they have in DeMar Carroll by grabbing PJ Tucker and how those minutes are going to shake out at the 3. Because he's a very, very similar player to DeMar Carroll. Probably a little better defensively, but doesn't have the offensive skill of DeMar Carroll. But it's a nice problem to have for Masai Ujiri. Ton of lineup variations to throw out there.
I think he's considered a 3-and-D guy, but he's not really a three-point shooter. He only averages less than 1 for his entire career, but he's this kind of guy who you think stick him in the corner. He can almost be that Bruce Bowen type of role for the Raptors. But I think it's good reinforcements for Ujiri. I think it's a good opportunity. Like I say, he gave away basically nothing just to get a guy who knows a solid defensive veteran, good presence out there. So I think it's a good move for the Raptors.
Sorry, go ahead.
Well, the Raptors have had problems in the playoffs with big wings, and they've needed a 4-man really for the past couple of years. Masai Ujiri was able to get Serge Ibaka and PJ Tucker for pretty cheap cost, all things considered. That's a great trade deadline for the Raptors. No doubt.
And this one came in right around the 3
Suns were
Eastern
holding
deadline,
out.
because you've got to imagine the Suns were saying, nope, we want a first-round pick for PJ. Nope, we want a first-round pick. And in the end, they finally say, all right, just give us those second-round picks. and
Some
Jared
great
Sullinger.
photos out there of Masai Ujiri working the phones in track pants. He's that cool.
He's that cool. He's that cool.
That's what he does.
We got a whole lot of other trades to take you through still. We're going to take a break. We'll refocus here, and we'll get to some of the smaller deals, but we also will get into the guys that weren't moved. We already talked about Jimmy Butler, Paul George as well, staying a Pacer, so we'll look at some stars staying put after the deadline. Come on back. Welcome back to the starters. Maybe the biggest takeaway from today's trade deadline day deals was the deals that weren't made, and that was some of the star names that are going nowhere, as of now at least. These names were involved in a whole lot of tweets today, especially the first 2 in Jimmy Butler, Paul George, Blake Griffin, Carmelo Anthony, Andre Drummond. This is just a few of the names that ultimately did not get traded. Guys, of that list, or maybe I'm missing one, what was the most surprising non-move today?
Just trade them all for each other, just so we can talk about them
It
moving.
looked like a good team that we had up there, yeah.
Yeah, I think Jimmy Butler and Paul George are more likely to move in the offseason because I just don't think there was enough time, frankly, that Paul George was on the trade block. You know, from our perspective, who knows how long he was out there, but it didn't seem like he was out there very long. And I think there's going to be a lot of teams that swing and miss in the offseason, and that's when you can call Larry Bird and say, hey, let's work something out, because this free agent crop coming this offseason isn't huge.
I'm
done talking.
Yeah, no, I was going to say the two teams we were seeing on Twitter, obviously through all the sources today, the most that were interested in Paul George was the Denver Nuggets, who apparently had made some sort of monster package, which the Pacers ultimately turned down, and then of course the Celtics, who were involved not only in Paul George but Jimmy Butler, and the idea of putting their young assets and their picks together. I guess maybe the better way to ask this question was, were you shocked that the Celtics, with all of their picks and all of their young guys and where they are in the standings in the East and trying to take down LeBron, trying to get the ball, that they didn't make a move today?
That's not really Danny Ainge's style.
Yeah, Danny
right?
Ainge has done this a lot around the trade deadline, around the draft as well. He's apparently got all these assets and all these draft picks, but he's kind of reluctant still to make that big move. And if it was on the table today for Paul George and he only had to give up a couple of those draft picks, and Avery Bradley apparently was reported in that deal, and so was Jay Crowder, I think he should have done it. But who knows? Who knows exactly what went on with those conversations between him and his old teammate there and Larry Bird. Larry Bird was asking for plenty. But if you are a Boston Celtics fan, I'm interested. Do you really think that Danny Ainge, is it time for him to cash in some of these picks?
Right.
I'm so conflicted on this. This definitely seems like the year that they would want to cash in on everything. With Kevin Love going down, the Cavs have struggled a little bit even before Kevin Love went out. They're a very good team, number 2 in the East. You know, they're one of the next best teams, along with the Raptors. They definitely have a chance at getting to the conference finals, which means they have a chance of getting to the finals. But they also might have the number 1 pick in a really good draft, supposedly, this year. So do you just throw away the chance at a number 1 pick for bringing in a guy in Paul George who might bolt for the Lakers a couple of seasons later? It's a tough thing. I'm with you. I kind of think that they should have made a move to try and bring in one of these stars in either Paul George or Jimmy Butler. They have 30-year-old Al Horford as their center. You don't sign a 30-year-old guy if you're going to be waiting things out for a number 1 pick to, mature into a superstar.
And these guys aren't like early guys. They're ready to win. Isaiah Thomas, and Jay Crowder, and those guys. They've been around long enough. It's like, okay, we should make a run at it right now.
They've never won a playoff series
I know, but that's
under
the thing.
Brad
That's the
Stevens.
thing.
I brought this up yesterday,
Yeah.
and this is why I think they're ultimately, and maybe it's the right move for Ainge, to just wait a little bit longer here. Not only to see where the pick ends up. That's another part of this, right? I mean, if it's the number 1 pick, maybe you have a little more power when it comes to getting whoever you want, and maybe those teams are more likely to make that move. But also just to see how your team fares, maybe in the playoffs with this squad that you got, which obviously is a great team, but they've never won a playoff series under Brad Stevens. Maybe win a series or 2 and then reassess and whether you need a Butler or a Paul George. Question is it too late?
Yeah, you might miss out on the
That's
guy.
it.
You got 4 months from now. Those guys are still going to be on the trade block. There's still that potential in Paul George and Jimmy Butler.
Yeah,
It's
but
not
then,
that long from
then
now.
you may have missed your chance as well in the playoffs this season. Against, let's say, against the Cavs or someone like that, you might have a real opportunity to sneak into the finals this year. If you have a chance to get Paul George now and convince him that this is a long-term solution for him, and perhaps sign him to that long-term deal, maybe that's your window there as well. I mean, the Lakers thing with Paul George is what looms large right now.
Definitely.
Right.
He's from California, and all reports are, I think Sam Amick tweeted it earlier, is that he is hell-bent
Right.
on going to Los Angeles if it's not in Indiana. It's either Indiana or LA. And if the Pacers aren't contending for a title, he might think, all right, I want to go home and see if I can do something with the Lakers, who've got a lot of young guys right now. Obviously, a whole change of management right now. So prospects perhaps there are appealing to him.
So shouldn't that then, look, are the Pacers, Larry Bird, look in the mirror, look at your team, are you going to be challenging for a title next season?
Probably not.
No matter what you do
Yeah.
obviously in the summer, whoever you bring in, probably not, right? Shouldn't you then maybe consider doing what the Jazz did way back when with Darren Williams, when they're saying, well, look, we can trade him right now.
Yeah.
And get a whole lot of pieces back and some young guys. They got Derek Favors back. They got a couple picks, one being the number 3 pick, a couple years later, number 20 pick. Like, they got some things back, and obviously that took a while to get back to being a good team, but maybe the Pacers are going to regret today and that they didn't pull the plug.
Yeah, well, who knows what was on the other side of the table?
Right. Well, if
it's, Jordan, Mickey, and a pick, like, who really knows?
You're right. But I mean, Lee's right. If it's Bradley, Crowder, whatever other contract filler, and one of the
He's
and the
right,
next
but
pick,
we don't know what it was.
No. But if it's that, would you have made that move?
What?
If either you were the Pacers or the Celtics?
What's the package?
Number 1 pick from the Nets,
Package.
or obviously a top 3 pick, probably from the Nets. Bradley, Crowder. Let's just start with that.
Yeah, I think I do.
Okay.
And I'm thinking Paul George, because I think Paul George is a better superstar than Jimmy Butler.
Yeah, that was the debate.
That's
You think the Celtics should have gone more aggressively after Butler than Paul George, but they probably were going after both.
Well, I think that's an easy choice for the Celtics, that they would prefer to have Jimmy Butler. He's under contract for younger. He's been better than Paul George since Paul George broke his leg. The 2 players, Jimmy Butler and Paul George, are like about as equal of players as you can get in the NBA. It's like Kawhi Leonard is the perfect version of them, and then they're both 95% of Kawhi Leonard. I just think Butler has been better. Since the Paul George injury. He gets to the line. Paul George obviously is a better shooter, but I like the aggressiveness of Butler and the fact that he's under contract for longer under a previous CBA contract, so he's pretty cheap, all things considered.
I think they were probably more likely to get Butler out of the 2 as well, because even though we just talked about Larry Bird, I think he was still reluctant to give up Paul George. He would have preferred to just surround him with talent. So
Right.
I think if the Celtics had pushed hard and been prepared to give up a little more, then the Bulls may have pulled the trigger.
Another deal we thought, I was convinced was going to happen today because we saw it all over the last couple of days, was some sort of Wolves-Knicks point guard swap for Rubio and Rose. And ultimately, in the end, by all accounts, the Wolves were the ones saying, no, we don't want Derrick Rose. If we really want him, maybe we'll just get him in free agency. Were you guys shocked by that one at all?
I didn't really see it from the Wolves' perspective. Are they going forward with Derrick Rose as their point guard of the future, or is it an expiring deal for Ricky Rubio? That's all you're going to get?
Yeah,
so that's why
a weird-
I didn't think it made sense in the first place.
The only reason it even seemed to have legs to me is because of the Thibodeau factor. Derrick Rose obviously won an MVP with Thibodeau, had his greatest success as a Bull, as we all know. But it didn't make a ton of sense. And then there were supposedly rumors that the Knicks weren't actually that interested in Ricky Rubio because he has an injury history.
Right.
Meanwhile,
Wow.
Derrick Rose is their point guard. It doesn't really add up.
I think the Knicks would have liked to just get rid of Derrick Rose. I think that hasn't
Yeah.
really worked out, and so they're like, we'll take on Ricky Rubio, sure, if it means we get rid of Derrick Rose. But in the end, because in the end we saw a tweet came out from Woj at 2:59. There was a lot of moving parts with this trade, but they were basically said to each other, we'll just do it straight up, and the Knicks turned it down. I believe.
Not the Wolves.
Whoa.
Hang on. No, sorry. I think I got that
it
wrong.
was the Wolves.
Right, yeah, sorry. I got that wrong. It's the Wolves who turned it down.
Where's
yeah.
David Aldridge?
Yeah, exactly.
Oh, man, there's too many tweets flying
No,
around today.
of course. It was insane today. TweetDeck exploded. Did anyone else that you were shocked that didn't get moved in the end? Any of the Pistons players? Because their names were coming up left and right?
Yeah, it seems like when Stan Van Gundy gets angry, he moves somebody. So
Right.
I thought there was some potential with Reggie Jackson being dealt. Because Reggie Jackson didn't work out in OKC, it was a little bit of a different reason. Obviously, he wanted to be the starter, and Russell Westbrook was the starter there. But OKC sort of pushed him out entirely. So, it wouldn't have been a crazy story to hear that Reggie Jackson didn't work out in Detroit for whatever reason, whatever personality reasons, whatever locker room reasons were going on. But apparently, he may work there. I mean, who really knows? But they gave up a lot of money to make Reggie Jackson their point guard. So it was surprising to hear those rumors.
Yeah.
But what Stan Van wants, Stan Van gets because he controls everything. So I thought he may be on the move.
That'll be an interesting storyline to watch, though, because the Pistons, we talked about it, like, they've been playing better with Ish Smith running the point. So Stan Van Gundy, he's going to want to win games. And if
Definitely.
he continues to play Smith down the stretch, will Reggie Jackson start to get a little more perturbed with the minutes that he is or is not getting?
He's just going to release Reggie like Josh Smith.
Oh, easy. All right, gotta take a break. When we come back, we're gonna look at some of the smaller moves from the past couple days. Don't go anywhere. You're watching the Starters Trade Deadline Special. Back with the Starters Trade Deadline Special, taking you guys through every trade from the day and even a few from yesterday. And one of the other deals today, not a major deal by any means, but the Wizards helping out their bench a little bit, and that was the plan going into this deadline. Picked up Bojan Bogdanovic and Chris McCullough from the Nets in exchange for Andrew Nicholson and Marcus Thornton, who's planned to be waived there. Also a 2017 first-round pick going to the Nets. What do you guys think of this, especially with the Wizards? As I said, hoping to get some bench protection. They got unbelievable starters. Bench hasn't been so hot.
Bojan Bogdanovic is perfect around John Wall to come off the bench. This guy has scored a lot in this league. I think it's easy to forget that. He's had plenty of games over 20 this season. He had a 44-point game to match his jersey number last year. The guy can score, and he'll be coming off the bench, behind Otto Porter, but
That's fine.
He can get plenty of minutes. He isn't a defensive giant, so I think the bench is perfect for him. A defensive giant. I've never said that before. I probably will never say it again, but he's perfect in that role.
Yeah, he's going to be the best scorer coming off their bench pretty much immediately. The team is 22nd in threes, the Wizards are, so adding a 36% shooter definitely helps. It's a small move that the Wizards made, but it's the right one. They just needed to get any little bit of help for their bench.
Yeah, and 36% shooter on the Nets.
Yeah.
As soon as space opens up because John
Well,
Wall's playing with
36
him.
isn't bad anyways.
No, it'll go up. It should go up.
The Wizards have been the most surprising team over the last 8 weeks or so. So I think it's a good move there. They've just gone out and said, we just need a little bit of depth on our bench. He's a good, reliable shooter. They basically gave up nothing in return to get it. That first-round pick is included there. But you got to like what the Wizards are doing right now because they feel they're a pretty balanced team on overall, and they just needed to add another little guy, a shooter out there if one of those guys goes down or whatever, and Bogdanovic can do that.
I think they would have liked to have picked up, if they could have, some backup point guard help for John Wall and Beal sort of down the stretch here. They couldn't get that. Collison was being thrown around there, and Brandon Jennings was even in the mix. That
They were
ultimately
shopping
didn't
Trey
happen.
Burke, yeah.
But, not only do they got Bogdanovic coming off the bench, Jan Mahimi's coming back here, so there's another big. Kelly Oubre Jr. has been pretty phenomenal over the last couple weeks. Jason Smith has been solid. So now this does look at least a little bit more on paper like a reputable sort of second unit here because the starters have been lights out. Can they keep that up, or will they fall back a little and you need a little pickup from your second bench? A nice move by the Wizards here for sure. One of the names that they were rumored to be in the mix for was Lou Williams. He ultimately, in the end, ended up going to the Rockets. This one yesterday. Sweet Lou going to the Rockets in exchange for Corey Brewer and Houston's 2017 first-round pick. we briefly touched about this on yesterday's show because we were talking about the Magic Johnson and the front office shakeup. You were not super high, Tass, on the Lakers side of things with this deal in having to take back Brewer in the exchange. A lot of people were surprised by that because, they said, look, Lou is not in your long-term plans. At least you got a pick back, even though it's a low pick in the first round. At least you got a pick.
I like the first-round pick, but obviously to take that first-round pick, they had to have Corey Brewer come back as well. That was part of it because Corey Brewer is not an expiring deal. Listen, Lou Williams has been traded before. He was let go after he won the Six-Man Award because he's a one-way player.
Yeah.
He does it extremely, extremely well. So, yeah, I understand why Magic would say, all right, Lou, let's give our backcourt time to D'Angelo Russell and Jordan Clarkson. That makes a heck of a lot of sense. But they want to bring in a superstar, so I don't see the point in adding $7 million to the payroll for next year. Ideally, I think you get a first-round pick and not take back any money. But watching Lou Williams and the Rockets is going to be a lot of fun.
So you like the fit?
They're going all in. I don't know if I like the fit, but it's going to be fun to watch because they're not going to stop shooting the three ball.
Right.
Yeah, they've gone all in on, we're just going to try and outscore you, and I think that's a brilliant idea. Lou is definitely a Rockets kind of player. He gets to the rim, and he shoots threes, and he gets to the free throw line.
Yeah.
That's all they look for in Houston. And for giving up Corey Brewer, who kind of lost his spot to Sam Decker, the 27th pick in the draft right now, it's not a bad get.
Yep.
Yeah, Lou Williams, he shoots and he scores and he does that off the bench. So whenever the Rockets have to rest James Harden or whoever it is, the scoring's just going to continue. Him and Eric Gordon are just going to fire away when they get out there. So, yeah, Daryl Morey's plan is we just want to try to score 160 points a game. If you can match us, great. If you can't, we'll win.
And it's pretty good insurance, too. We know that Eric Gordon has had some injury problems in his career. Patrick Beverley's been a little bit dinged up. If either of those two guys go down, it's nice to have another guy who can handle the ball
It's
around.
easy to forget he's scoring 18 per game
Right.
right now, and he's going to be their seventh man. Call him whatever you
But
want.
he'll probably finish games as well because you know that you can't leave him open. He's been a closer in the past. He doesn't have great percentages, but you know that he can get the shot off when he needs it. So,
And, sort of another reason why maybe the Lakers would want to move him too. Obviously, just because he's not, matching up in terms of age with their youth movement there, but he's winning. You can win. He wins you some games. And the Lakers, they don't want to win any more games here because there's a pick on the line. They're hoping to keep their pick instead of it obviously going to the Sixers, the way of a long trade a long time ago. So maybe that in the end, they lose more games and they keep their pick in a loaded draft. That's another part of it, and as well, getting that first-round pick from the Rockets in exchange, which would be around 25 or so, so it's at least in the first round. Some other trades today, some minor deals here.
Why did we show that bad pass?
So minor, in fact, that we'll put them on the same board. We got the Nets getting KJ McDaniels from the Rockets for a future second-round pick. The Hawks, picked up Ersan Ilyasova over the last couple days here in exchange from Philly for Thiago Splitter, who hasn't played at all this year for the Hawks, and a second-round pick. There were some other ones. The Lakers taking a flyer on maybe a backup point guard there in Tyler Ennis from the Rockets. For Tass.
Where does you go, Marcelo?
Sorry, it's going to be late. The Nuggets acquired Roy Hibbert from the Bucks for a future second-round pick, and Mike Scott, acquired by the Suns from the Hawks for the good old cash.
Straight cash.
Consideration. First things first, with Roy Hibbert, we were talking about one game we like to do up in the starter's office. You pull up Basketball Reference, you can find a player, and you try and get the other guys to guess all the teams that particular player played for. We are in 10 years. You can lock it in right now. You can go ahead and lock it in if you got that available. We're going to forget about Roy Hibbert having played for the Milwaukee Bucks. It's going to be a mistake one of us makes in 10 years. So you can lock that
and
in.
now he's going to Denver.
There it is.
Oh, we're locking it in.
We've already forgotten about Hibbert being on the Bucks.
It's not quite sheet in the Hawks, but
Yeah, at
it's
least
similar.
he played.
It was an unforgettable tenure.
It's the Quentin Richardson sort of deal where you just sort of bounce around a lot of teams.
Sure.
Really play. for them.
Ilyasova as well,
Yeah, he's done the
bouncing
same
around
thing,
here left and right.
Luke Ridnour, let's just say names.
Yeah, what did you guys think, though, of some of those minor deals? I mean, KJ McDaniels going to the Nets, obviously a young guy. Rockets shedding some cap space. I mean, they're going to be in the play for a buyout guy, right? They made some space today to go and try and pick up somebody, and there sounds like there's going to be some names. What do you guys think?
Yeah, the Nets are getting involved, and I like that. Like they did in the offseason where they signed a couple guys to offer sheets like Tyler Johnson and Alan Crabb. They're taking flyers on guys who, haven't made their mark on other teams, but why the heck not? I mean, this is a no-lose scenario. They get KJ McDaniels, and they're getting some low draft picks along with that, that Boyan Bogdanovic move. They're playing. They're playing in the game. They don't have their own picks, but it's fun to see them alive.
Great news for our top 10 plays of the week is that KJ McDaniels is probably going to be playing more. He hasn't been able to stay in the rotation very often for the Rockets, but those first few games when he was playing with Philly, it was a highlight every single week. I'm excited to see what he does when he's in a scenario where he can play through his mistakes and just be out on the court and, do some crazy stuff. The guy's a crazy athlete.
Yeah, it was kind of disappointing how it went when he went to Houston because we saw those flashes in Philadelphia. Thought this guy, if he gets the right opportunity, could produce. So now going to Brooklyn, there's plenty of time, there's plenty of minutes. Maybe this is the right situation for him.
Yeah.
That Mike Scott trade from the Hawks to the Suns should have been reported strictly with emojis.
Totally.
Fire emoji for cash, like for cash. I stole that joke from CJ Zero, but it's totally true. He's got the emojis
got a whole
everywhere. That's what he does.
So would he have frowny face or smiley face at the end of it?
No income tax in Phoenix. Smiley face.
Golf, you got a little golf emoji there? All right.
2 cashes.
We got to take a break. When we come back, Paul Pierce and his 2 phones star in a brand new edition of the Meme Team. Don't go anywhere. Let's take a quick break from the trade deadline deals because it's Thursday, and every Thursday we scour the internet to bring you the Meme Team, our favorite weird and wacky moments from the past 7 days.
During the past 7 days, we had a dunk contest. It wasn't a hallmark event, but there were some goodies, there were some baddies, and that caused a lot of reactions around the NBA. Paul Pierce working 2 phones like he's David Aldridge at the trade deadline. Got Martin Rickman to tweet, Paul Pierce so old he uses one phone Zoom to read the texts on his other phone. But probably the best reaction was from Dukembe. He's trying to videotape it. No. Oh, come on. You got to hit your dunk when Dikembe puts his phone up.
No.
Otherwise, he's angry.
No.
George is pretty cool with it, though.
Yeah.
George is ice cool.
Dikembe is very angry.
So sad.
In honor of Valentine's Day last week, a few Cavs players hit us with a sweet Whitney Houston ballad.
You gave me the hardest part to sing.
And at number 3, Kyrie Irving made headlines at All-Star Media Day because he said the Earth is flat, and the media couldn't get enough.
You've seen pictures of the planet, though, right? Like it's a circle. So
I've seen a lot of things that that my educational system has said that was real and turned out to be completely fake.
Well, who's to say that picture is telling the truth?
I guess NASA.
Yeah, but I can make a round picture with my iPhone today on the panoramic camera and make it like look around.
Kyrie, Earth is flat, right? Yeah.
All Cavs support him, though, including Richard Jefferson on the right. Flat world champions.
Did Westbrook and Durant squash their beef? Well, that's what the Western Conference All-Stars thought after the former teammates connected on an oop there.
Yay!
Yeah, friends again.
Come on, hug or something,
Buddies
guys.
again. Oh yeah, we got the sort of the kiss cam there.
Are they going to touch?
Oh
nothing.
man. All right, it's over.
And at number 1, Anthony Davis and DeMarcus Cousins are together. This little brotherhood bond has already started. That was their first practice, and already the nicknames are flying up. Fire and Ice, as DeMarcus called them. That was great. ADDC, another very, very good one. How about a little buddy cop duo? Yeah, they can rock it. Sure.
Perfect. Cool. That doesn't even look photoshopped.
Let's just put the names together. Boogie Brow Productions, as Trey did there.
I like that.
Yeah.
I like that. Lee, you were at the dunk contest.
Yes.
Did you have your phones out? Are you recording? Are you one of those
many
people
do you
that like
have?
record?
Yeah, no, I am because I was trying to get the Instagram video. What's it called? The
Stories.
Yeah.
You love your stories.
and quite a few times I had it, and I was like, delete,
Yeah.
delete,
For sure.
delete. Yeah, it didn't work unfortunately, but
Yeah, it was sad going through pictures after All-Star Weekend. Aaron Gordon going through the legs looks incredible, but in your mind, it didn't go down the way it looked like on your phone.
And your battery on the iPhone as well is not great. So
You gotta get a Mophie, dog.
You need 2 phones. Yeah, that's why Paul Pierce is
That's why you
thinking
gotta
of
go
it.
Kevin Gates.
Yeah, for sure. All right. We gotta take a break. When we come back, we'll debate the biggest winner from the trade deadline week, let's call it. Don't go anywhere. You're watching the starters. Welcome back to the starters. Let's play a little game of fill in the blank when it comes to the trade deadline. TK, got a cue for us.
Yeah, the trade deadline is all about instant analysis of moves that haven't even played out yet. Guys, fill in the blank. The biggest winner from the trade deadline is a blank.
What do you guys got?
Boogie.
Oh, okay. Keeping
He's
it
free.
simple.
Yeah, he's free. Look, he's never really played with anyone of the talent of Anthony Davis in his 7 years in the NBA. He goes to a whole new situation. I mean, the future is so bright. This is going to be tough for them to make the playoffs, as we addressed yesterday on the show for this season. But going forward, you think this is going to be such an incredibly tough team to match up against because they're both incredibly athletic. They can handle the ball. They can stretch the defense and knock down the long-range shots. I just think for DeMarcus, all that chaos that was in Sacramento is now behind him.
Couldn't you argue, though, that he's not the biggest winner because he's going to lose something like $40 million, right? Because he's not going to be getting the
30
designated
million,
player
yeah,
exception with his team. That doesn't carry over to your new
Well,
team.
37 million out of 207 million is when you
just
say
saying.
losing money. I mean,
Okay.
it's not like he's got that money and all of a sudden it's gone down the drain. He's going to be fine. He's going to be able to afford to put on a nice suit and a nice pair of shoes.
Sure.
But as I mentioned, I just think it was really chaotic the last few years in.
Sorry, I just
So smooth.
I wasn't listening to a word you're saying. I was distracted by the camera just checking in on Trey winking over there for a second. Who are you going with, Tass? What do you got?
I think it is the Pelicans and in turn us, because there is nothing like the 4-5 combo that we're going to see in New Orleans in the NBA at all. So we're going to see this go up against teams like the Rockets tonight on TNT. Front lines that they should dominate, and it's a unique experience. Everybody's shooting the three. Well,
Right.
these guys obviously can shoot the three,
Right.
but they can dominate everywhere within the arc as well because they can do it all. And I think, I don't know if we really appreciate DeMarcus Cousins' talents at this point because it gets bogged down and outweighed, and everybody talks about everything else going on with him. The guy can do everything. He plays bully ball. AD is a little bit more finesse. That special 4-5 combo is not seen anywhere in the NBA, so it's going to be fun to watch.
I'm so happy that he is just on another team because we get to finally find out was the reason the Kings were not great over the last 6 or 7 years because of Cousins and he's not capable of taking a team into the playoff, or was because the franchise was incapable of surrounding him with any real talent and giving him a real chance to make some noise in the playoff. We're truly going to find out. And and it is. You're probably right. It's a little bit of both maybe, but it's fun to see Cousins going to a team where he's not even arguably the best player.
Yeah.
And that should be deadly. It should.
Hopefully we've seen those visuals you just saw for the last time of him throwing
Being
stuff
angry.
around.
Do you truly believe that, though?
No. I mean, he said it in the press conference, like, how much do you want to win, was what he was asked, and he said, well, about 17 technicals worth. Because that's
great
how
response.
angry he is. That's
Right.
that he is just a passionate man.
I went for the biggest winner from the trade deadline. I was waiting because I know you guys were going to go with Cousins and the Kings. I don't even know if you can read that there, but I crossed out Kings because you guys were going to go with it. The other two winners to me from this trade deadline.
Hold on, the Kings were a winner?
No.
Oh, just had
Good
to
thing
confirm.
I crossed it out. I meant the Pelicans there. Kings were definitely not a winner.
Don't worry, we can't read it anyway.
Got a wink after that.
Yeah,
one.
if we could get a pen that worked, that'd be great. Woj is always a winner when it comes to the deadline because we were on Twitter for the last 7 hours pressing refresh, pressing refresh. I mean, that's always fun, and he's usually the first guy breaking a lot of the news. The other winner, I got the Raptors as a minor winner in comparison to the Pelicans because over the last week or so, they picked up two defensive-minded bigs. Serge Ibaka from the Orlando Magic, which really didn't cost them all that much, and Terrence Ross, and a pick. And then, of course, today, as we talked about earlier, PJ Tucker coming over for Jared Sullinger and some second-round picks in the future. It's not a Paul George or a Jimmy Butler, but these are some nice moves around the fringes here to see if you can make the best team in Raptors history even a little bit better to hopefully take down, obviously, a Cavs or whoever they would run into in the playoffs, be it the Celtics or the Wizards. That's a good little deal here. Both deals by Masai Ujiri.
I'm really happy too for Alvin Gentry because he's been on the hot seat, certainly to start this season. Now he's got two very, very good players. We're going to sort of see what he can do with these incredible players. Because remember at Summer League we had him on the show and I said to him, you know, everyone's going away from sort of the big man, the inside game and they're shooting threes. How are you going to combat that? And he said, you just play to your strengths.
Right.
And now he's got two of the biggest guys in the league who are going to go in. They're not going to shoot a lot of threes as they are right now, but it doesn't matter. If you've got those two big guys, you just pound it inside and see if you can just dominate defenses, which I expect them fully to do.
It'd be interesting to see. What about, I mean, we don't need to write it down because my pen doesn't even work. But biggest loser from the trade deadline week. I mean, outside of the outside of the Kings, which I already accidentally wrote down and we talked about in great detail. Is there another sort of loser from either today or the last couple of days, a team, a player, after it all shook out?
I can't do it. I can't go that harsh with
Come
the word.
on.
No, I can't go Lahuza her. No, I can't. I think it's too strong to call the Celtics or any other team that's not, you know, taking a bigger step like the Wizards to go get those Cavs. Because who knows what was on the table? I don't know. I got to play it straight here. I'm just pumped to see the Raptors having a defensive-minded team. Sometimes you just can't teach guys to play D, to have that sort of mentality. And Masai Ujiri, for the first time, has really gone after it with those two guys. I mean, there's such perfect matches for the other parts of their team. And you said it's, you know, their best team ever, and complimenting those guys. Well, I don't know. They've dropped off since they were that great team, since they won, you know, 56 games last year. What gets them back? And I think it could just be sort of these tough-minded dudes. They just need somebody in the locker room to, you know, rile guys up. And PJ Tucker and Serge could be that.
Tass won't throw around the L word. Will you?
Again, it's very harsh to say, but Jahlil Okafor.
What do you got?
Jahlil Okafor, I think it's been a bad couple of months for him because the Sixers apparently were trying to trade him. And if you look at some of the deals, as we mentioned earlier, for what the Sixers got for Nerlens Noel, and you're telling me that the Sixers couldn't even get that for Jahlil Okafor, tells me that his value has really, really dropped off right now. So he's going into this season, to the remainder of the season, probably lame duck status. I mean, he's under contract still, but he has to do something really special to show teams what his value is.
Yeah, I think I heard Woj talk about this. It looked like the Sixers were thinking, well, this was a number 3 pick. This is a number 3 pick. We got to get something decent back in exchange. While other teams are looking at Jahlil Okafor and looking at his actual on-court production and how he played this, especially this year.
Yeah.
And, well, look at this guy. What is he really worth? And that was sort of maybe the difference. Maybe that was the difference maker in a deal ultimately not getting done. The Sixers thinking of him as a sort of a pick and where he was taken, while other teams looking at him as the player, especially in today's NBA. Because all these centers, I mean, there's not a huge demand for a center that is just even a scorer.
If the Sixers had got back from the Pelicans what Sacramento got, you would say that's probably not a bad deal. A couple of flies in there and a first pick. Instead, the Pelicans get DeMarcus Cousins for that.
All NBA center.
Yeah.
Weird deadline. All right. Take one more break. When we come back, we'll recap what happened in today's somewhat uneventful trade line, and we'll look ahead to tonight's action. So don't go anywhere. You're watching The Starters. Carlos, I need a pen that works. Back with The Starters, we asked you on Twitter, what's something you would like to trade? Hit us up, hashtag The Starters. Trey, you have a few of the best answers.
That's right. Aku says, I still want you to land Roe Parrish. He can come off the bench. Trade him for Angry Uncle Bob. We need to get that guy out of here. That's a great call. And Ego says, his house for 50 wedgies. Save it, man. We're going to get there no matter what. And speaking of houses, we've got some good news. The offers are flying in. This is from Tori. We'll trade you this ground beef for your house. We live in Chicago, so we can get the keys. Maybe not the best offer. Hector says, I live like 15 minutes from Lombard. I'll trade you a car for a house.
All right, now we're talking.
Also good.
He just took a photo of that car.
And then Ty says, I would absolutely, positively trade my 2 brothers for anything. Give you my 2 brothers for your house? You got a deal, man.
You got 2 daughters.
That's right.
Hey,
I got
full
2 daughters.
family.
You got 2 brothers.
Paul
Perfect
Pierce has got
match.
2 phones. Man. All right, new faces, new places. Some of these today, some of these days prior. Cousins with the Pelicans, Serge Ibaka and PJ Tucker with the Raps, Lou Williams, Rockets, Bojan Bogdanovic with the Wizards, helping shore up their bench unit, and Nerlens Noel, probably the biggest deal of today, going to the Dallas Mavericks. Any final thoughts from, again, a pretty uneventful actual trade deadline day? What do you guys have?
I wonder what Doc Rivers was saying to Doc Rivers. If he was trying to convince him to make a trade,
Yeah.
or if he was just saying, lay off, Doc, my team is fine. Or I really wonder what's going on in Clipperland. Blake Griffin and Chris Paul could leave this offseason if they want to opt out of their contracts. I just wonder what happens going into the offseason, because it's unlikely that they get to a conference final, because they'd have to go through the Warriors to get there. So does this team stay intact? That's my biggest question.
Things were definitely very quiet in the Clippers over the last
Yeah,
few days.
no, you're absolutely right. All right, let's look at Wednesday, February 15th's result from the pick and play. It's been a while, guys. TAS actually lost a game, so we gained a game on TAS. We're pretty close here for the month of February.
Right.
A reminder is the loser at the end of the month, which is coming up pretty quick as well, we'll have to do something weird or scary or painful or whatever it is here on the show in early March. Oh yeah, forgot Trey was a beaver / groundhog.
Shout out to nature.
Yeah, for sure. That's his home. That's where he lives. Tonight's pick and play, Rockets at Pelicans. It's on League Pass. Jared Greenberg actually there, and 10 before tip coming on right after us. He's in New Orleans. Trey, Lee, Tass, you got the Rockets. I'll take the Pellies.
The debut of Buggy.
What we got here?
It's not a very solid play, but this is our floor manager, Carlos, knocking in a beautiful layup in the studio there.
Wow.
Well done, Carlos. There he is, yeah. Thank you. No solid play, but we'll take that. We'll take that every day.
Carlos Pretty Toes.
All right, tonight on TNT, it's the Knicks and Cavs. Word is Charles Oakley will be in the building there. He's in the land. That one followed by the Clippers and Warriors. Unfortunately, Chris Paul apparently not going to be playing tonight, but he's supposed to be coming back pretty soon. Tomorrow morning, the Drop Podcast. You can catch it on iTunes, Google Play. We'll tweet it out. We'll see you then.
Thanks for joining us, folks. And remember, just because you laugh at something doesn't make that something funny.
Race tonight, people.